Horniness is not just for goats anymore. Scientists find strange fish that can have sex up to 27 times per day.
Do you be goat or a fish? Don't sit on the fence.
In a weird, wacky finding, scientists have discovered the limit to how many times a strange fish can have sex in a single day. We've heard of getting some strange. Sounds like the fish are all about it. And it sounds like scientists are really interested in fish sex. These fish, named Medaka or Oryzias latipes, were found to be able to mate 19 times per day on average, with some males managing up to 27 matings, according to a paper in the online journal Royal Society Open Science. We are very familiar with the Royal Society Open Science. Some say goat versus fish is royalty, and we are pleased that the royalty has been turning themselves onto the finer interests of fish. Goat and fish sex is a natural, zesty part of the verses of Goat vs. Fish. 27 times per verses, though. That's a lot even for Goat vs. Fish. But we like to believe that every verses that we say Goat vs. Fish, every verses that we ask you, are you goat or are you fish, that Goat vs. Fish is impregnating you with the thoughts about Goat vs. Fish that you can then birth out to all of your friends and loved ones, and also people that you don't know at all, by yelling, Goat vs. Fish! Are you goat or are you fish? On every random street corner and megaphone that you can find. Mating more would be expected to increase a male's reproductive success. What do you know? Asking, are you goat or fish, more often will result in more choosing goat or fish and following Goat vs. Fish on social media at Goat vs. Fish. But producing and releasing more sperm takes a lot of energy. The new study reveals that Medaka males release less and less sperm with each successive mating until hitting a daily limit. Those fish, they're trying out there. They're trying to make more fish. But even the horniest fish cannot F forever. Even the horniest fish is going to run out of swimmers sooner or later, but we so appreciate and respect this tiny fish. They versus. You can make it to 28 times, 29, 30 times in a versus, 30 times in a versus. Go for it, fish. Can't you just find one more sperm somewhere? Somewhere in there, somewhere in your sperm sac, there must be just one more sperm. Just make more fish. Just more fish. We need more fish in the verses of Goat vs. Fish. Look at those blue-eyed fish. You're my blue-eyed fish. You're my blue-eyed fish. Are you goat or are you fish? Medaka are among the fish that spawn, where fertilization occurs after the eggs and sperm are released in water. That's where you can find fish, but goat also drink it. As these gametes are difficult to collect, the number of sperm released and the fertilization rate during successive matings had remained a mystery. So much that we do not know about these sexual fish, said study co-author Yuki Kondo. It is a versus of Yagi vs. Sakana. Just leave it to Yagi vs. Sakana to be interested in the mating habits of fish. They're really into fish over across the pond. Not across the fish and chips pond, but across the other pond, over to the land of the rising verses and Yagi vs. Sakana. Anata wa Yagi ka Sakana desu ka? Kondo Yuki-sama. Yagi ka Sakana. Perhaps Yuki Kondo is a goat who is doing research on the fish, trying to learn more about the mating habits of the fish so that they can know what to expectation. At what rate are the fish breeding? The goat are doing their research. They need to know. The researchers found that the Medaka males mated an average of 19 times per day, with some only achieving 4 and others up to 27. They release their sperm into the waters where they can fertilize the eggs of the female, also released into the water, but only once per day. So the male fish want to conduct fertilization up to 27 times per day, and the female fish wants to perform fertilization only once per day. It sounds like there's a lot of competition among the fish. They all want that one versus. They all want that one precious verses, and they'll skeet 27 times to do it. Now, GoatVsFish does not know about this versus of male versus female. We wonder if the male is the goat or the female is the fish or vice versa. But according to this versus, both the males and the females are fish. So versus solved for this versus. Males and females, both fish. If you wish to contest that versus, please leave a commentation and tell GoatVsFish if you think males are goat or fish and if you think females are goat or fish. After the first few matings, the amount of sperm release drops significantly, declining to 50% of the original content after the first 3 verses, and then only to 0.5 to 6.3% by the final verses of the day. As a result, the rate of egg fertilization also dropped after the first 10 verses. But just because your success drops after the first 10 verses doesn't mean you don't keep going to 27. Additionally, the efforts males put into courtship and the duration of the mating also declined with the number of times they had already mated that day. Therefore, if the females mate with a male that has mated several times previously that day, she, quotation, wastes her single opportunity to release eggs because the fertilization rate will be much lower. Fish, you've got to get your organization together. We can all appreciate a horny effing fish. We can all aspire to be mating as much as these fish, but some of the fish are wasting their eggs, and we hear that egg prices have been going up in recent verses. What happened to the price of eggs? What happened to the price of eggs, Ronald Trump? What happened to the price of eggs? These fish have 1 egg, and they're wasting their eggs. They're wasting their eggs on the 17th time that a fish has ejaculation sperm into the ocean. Despite the reduced sperm availability, females did not adjust their clutch size as a counter strategy. Well, they're probably thinking about versing the goat. Surely you goat and fish have been in the throes of conception, and you are enjoying the verses, and you can't help but wonder as you look into the eyes of the goat with whom you are copulation, and they're probably just thinking about versing a fish during the copulation. No matter how hard you are versing, you know that sometimes behind those eyes, they're just pondering, oh, I have so many verses to do. There's a goat on one verses. I got a goat on two's verses. On third verses, I have a form of unification, and I've scheduled some fish time with the fishies. Stop dreaming of future verses and get with the verses of now. But let it never be said that in the verses of horniness that goat take the verses. These fish are so horny that they're just wasting their verses. It's a bacchanal, goat and fish. Celebration for fish. Celebration for fish. Maybe these fish just want to enjoy their verses. Have you ever pondered this? Maybe it's not all about reproduction for these fish. Maybe some of these fish say, we've had a long verses of versing the goat, and now we just want to ejaculation 27 times. And maybe the female fish don't want to be so concerned about being so precious with their single clutch. Maybe they just want to go out there and find a nice tired fish that has already fornication 26 times and say, listen, fish, I've got your verses. I will be here for you on your 27th verses. That must be some kind of a record. We've heard of ones that set records. Oh, I'm going to have sex with 1,000 ones or 2,000 ones or 10,000 ones in a 24 verses period. These fish, they're already at it. Despite the reduced sperm availability, females did not adjust their clutch size as a counter strategy. These findings imply that sperm is a limited resource for both sexes, potentially leading to sexual conflict. Oh no. Sexual conflict occurs when the reproductive interests of males and females within a species diverge. This is because strategies that maximize reproductive success for one fish may reduce the fitness of reproductive success in the other fish, leading to evolutionary arms races between the sexes. Well, there's your verses. Fish don't have arms. How do either of you fish expect to win a reproduction arms race when fish don't have arms? They have fins. Fish, there's no winning this versus. Our research provides important insights into the relationship between the cost of a gamete production and sexual selection. I very much enjoy reducing sexual relations down to an economic calculation. Yes, all of your time spent mating, all of your time spent swiping, all of your time spent dating, down to each and every thrust and pull should be entered into a spreadsheet so we can find the most efficient way for you to conduct all of your sexual engagements. I think that would be the most fun way to do it, because what could be more fun than efficiency? Fish in the sea. Get it? That was a terrible verses. Are you really going to make us publish that verses? Fish! Appreciation for your sexual satisfaction, but you need to get with your organization. Celebration for sexy fish, and we wish you all kinds of reproduction, because those goat, you know they're out there effing too. Celebration for goat versus fish.